Ja, herzlich willkommen, liebe Zuschauerinnen und Zuschauer. Wir freuen uns unglaublich, Chris Charter bei uns in der neuen Runde von Weltbild liest begrüßen zu dürfen. Brasilia, Los Angeles, London, das sind die Orte, an denen unser Gast bisher lebte. Er war früher Burgerwender, Tänzer, Kriminalpsychologe, Gitarrist bei Ricky Martin, Shania Twain und heute ist er Vollzeitautor mit Bestseller-Garantie. Mein Name ist Christian Seiler, ich bin CEO der Weltbild-Gruppe und sicherlich einer der größten Fans von Chris Charter und auch vom Profiler Robert Hunter. Und ich freue mich unglaublich, dass ich heute mit ihm sprechen darf. Und vielleicht vorab eine kleine Warnung. Die Thriller sind nicht für Zartbeseitete. Es geht um Serienkiller, es geht um Mörder und jetzt kommt endlich der 12. Band der Reihe um den Profiler Hunter und seinen Partner Garcia heraus. Und wir wollen heute hören, was uns Chris dazu zu sagen hat und verrät. Ich freue mich unglaublich, dass wir ihn heute bei uns als Gast haben. Welcome, Chris, Mr. Charter. It's such a pleasure to meet you. For sure, I'm one of the biggest fans of Hunter. So happy to have you at Weltbild List.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Good to have you here. Chris, as a young man, you decided to work as a psychologist, and later you turned your life and started a career as a musician, and in your third career, you became an author and write about exactly what you experienced before. So working as a psychologist has never really let go of you, has it?
Oh, well, actually, it has. Thank God for that. It's a very big difference in between working with criminal psychology and writing about it, simply because what I write about is fiction. So I know that everything I put in my books is not true. I make it up in my head. It's based on, a lot of it's based on true facts, but it's not true. Working with criminal psychology, you deal with that every day. So you deal with evil and bad people and sadness and violence every day. So I use the knowledge that I acquired while being a criminal psychologist to write, but there's a big difference. It's a lot more relaxed writing because it's not true. You know that what you're making there, nobody's really dying. That all of that is just make believe. But when you're working with criminal psychology, every day you go to work, and it's a very heavy job. Mentally, it's a very heavy job. Yeah. So I use the knowledge, but thank God I don't work directly with criminal psychology anymore.
Okay, that sounds good. And why did you never start a new career as a musician then at the time?
The thing is, well, I graduated from criminal behavior psychology very early. I was very young, and I worked with it for 7 years. But like I said, it's a very heavy profession. So it gets to a point because every day is a bad day. It doesn't matter if in that day you help the police apprehend a criminal. Every day is a dark day because I said every day you deal with violence and sadness and loss and evil and everything. So every day is like mentally very heavy. Now you do this day after day, year after year, it gets very heavy to the person. And I was already wondering, I was like, okay, how long can I carry on working with this before it breaks my head? Because it was like, and I wanted to I always love music. And at that time, music is like, if you pass a certain age, you sort of like lose your chance. So I was thinking, okay, look, I am 26, 27 now. So if I have to go do music, so I got to do it now. So the true reason behind is I realized that I could get more girls if I was a guitarist than if I was a psychologist. So I moved to California and it started. I tried to be in a band, and I had my own band, but the idea is always to get your own deal, a record deal for my group. But I got close, but never really got the deal. So that was difficult. But then I got lucky as a session musician. So I started playing for other big names, just as the guitarist. So that's the reason, really. It was a combination. One is like I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to try music. And two, it was getting very heavy with the criminal psychology and the girls.
Yeah, that sounds great. So as you said, you've seen real crime, and you know the difference between reality and fiction better than any one of us. What do you think is worse, reality or your fantasy in the books?
Reality by a mile. I always say this in a lot of the interviews I do. Like the main difference in between crime fiction and reality is that crime fiction has to make sense and reality doesn't. What I mean by that is, like, when I write something in the book, in the end of the book, I have to explain why the killer is doing. I have to give the reader a plausible explanation, why this guy is doing, or this killer is doing all this evil. I call it the Sherlock Holmes effect. I call it because with the Sherlock Holmes, when you read the book, it's like you don't know what's happening, and then at the end, when he explains, you go, "Oh yeah, I get it." And that's the thing. So criminal psychology or crime fiction has to be like that. At the end, you have to explain why the killer was doing, and the reader got to go, "Okay, I don't, I wouldn't do it, but I see the reason why the killer is doing." So everything has to have a reason for it. But in real life, that's not the truth, right? In real life, people, at least where I worked in America, people will kill you for no reason, for a bottle of Bud, for $10 in your pocket, for your watch, because you looked at them weird. They don't like the way you looked at them. They will come to you and knife you. So if I put that in a book, it doesn't, the reader's not going to like it. It's going to go, what? So reality is 10 times crazier than fiction, because a lot of the things don't make any sense.
Yeah, fully agree. And do you think that your personal experiences partly flow into your thrillers as well, or is it just fantasy?
If I personally experience what, sorry?
Your experiences when you work as a psychologist, do they flow into your thrills as well, or is it just a fantasy? Do you mix up reality with this?
Oh, yeah. It's like I have to. So I think most authors do. We're always looking for something that we can make a story out of. And in my case, if I can come up with any kind of story, but because I attended so many crime scenes when I was working as a crime psychologist, there's no crime scene that I can try to imagine in my head that I don't get images coming, because I've seen everything. I've seen from whole families being murdered, knifed, throat cut, decapitated, dismembered, cut in half, everything. I've seen burned alive, buried alive. I've seen everything. So if I'm going to write anything in my book and I say, okay, I'll do a scene where the person is dismembered, right? I have images of real life dismemberment that I've seen when I was working. So it's very hard for me to write only a fictional image or a scene in the book, because I always have image, but I make a mixture. I use things from reality that I've seen, especially the crime scenes. Most of the crime scenes I describe are all based on something I've seen. But I use a lot of fiction as well, a lot of imagination, a lot of twists, crazy stuff. It's good because I know the reader, the reader there, they like things that are different. So I use reality and throw a lot of craziness from my head in the stories. Makes it different.
Okay, sounds great. So probably coming to part 12 of the Hunter series, which is called Genesis. In Germany, it's called Blutige Stufen. So I'm really looking forward to read it, honestly speaking. And I think you said before that this is by far your darkest or most brutal story to date.
In my opinion, yes. It's.
Can you give us some of the background for that?
Yeah, I mean, the idea for it. I already had the idea a while ago, while I was writing Written in Blood. I usually have the idea for the next book in the middle of the book I'm writing. So it always happens. So I had the idea for the book, but then obviously, what happened at the end of 2019, I was still writing Written in Blood, but I lost my partner, and that affected me very badly. So when I was writing the new book, a lot of that mood came in. There's a very dark mood in the story. So a lot of things got changed. It also became quite a long book for some reason. Most of my books are around 100,000 words. This one is 140 something, so almost a book and a half. But the good thing is that everyone that read it, my editors, not very many people have read it yet, only my editors, but they all said, I know it's a longer book than normal, but it doesn't feel long. They said it moved very fast. But yes, in my opinion, the murders in this book, they are very brutal, very, very brutal. And there's an emotional side to the book that I don't think I had that much emotion in all the other books. But this one there's a big emotional side to the book, and it's very dark. The whole mood of the book is dark. So the funny thing is that everyone that I tell that, they say, "Oh, that's good." It's not like they go, "Oh, really?" No, they all go, "Yeah, that's good." More brutal. It's like more brutal. My God. So, but yeah, in my opinion, it's the most brutal book I've written to date. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I love to read it. The darker, the better. The more brutal, the better. And I think when you started with part 1, 2, 3, it was already brutal, I think. Yeah, but it was great. So, do you think there are any special human fears you play with in this new book, in this part 12, Genesis?
Yeah. I don't know if they're human fears, but there's I play a lot with. I can't reveal it because it gives away. But I play a lot of 3 different emotions in the book, and the consequences of those emotions in the book. And the first person who read the book was from my agency, and she messaged me when she finished reading. She goes, "We need to discuss this book." She got so excited. She said, "I never cried in a crime fiction book," and I said, "I cried in yours." I was like, "Oh, that's a good thing." So yeah, there's a big play of emotions in the book. There's a lot of fear. There's a big fear factor in the book as well. You see when it comes out. But yeah, I can't. Unfortunately, when people say, they ask me, what is the path of the book? Is I can't really, because if I review any of it, it reveals the ending. So
Sure.
it's all a surprise. But as I said, it deals with 3 main emotions in the book.
Okay, fantastic. So, as said, Genesis is part 12 of Hunter. And I think, or I read once, you revealed that there are some parallels between you and your character. Do you have probably an example for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think every writer who writes a series and uses the same character, we always use a little bit of us in the character, because it's easier for us to write about we know. So, for example, the insomnia that Hunter has comes from me. I suffer from insomnia badly, like badly. My alarm on my phone is set for 5 o'clock in the morning every day. Not once in the last 3 years the alarm came off, because I'm always awake by 3:30 in the morning. So the insomnia comes from me. The love for whiskey, for I don't know, single malt, not only single malt, but whiskey in general, that comes from me. Being a loner in a way comes from me. But as the series grew, obviously from book 1, you end up putting more and more of you inside Hunter. So on the book 1, 2, and 3, for example, there wasn't that much of me, just the insomnia and the whiskey, maybe a little bit. But now with 12 books, the more you go, the more you end up putting your things into it. So on this book, there is quite a bit of myself reflected on Hunter. And on the story, there are a lot of things on the story. In both characters, funny enough, there's a lot of me reflected on Hunter's character in this book, and on the killer's character. So I identify with the killer quite a bit. And you understand when you read it.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. Is there anything typically for you or Hunter you would never do?
It's hard to say never. I try to. There are 2 things I try to, but I think I'm gonna end up breaking it. One of them is I have never written a book where a child gets murdered, and that's something, because when I was working as a criminal psychologist, I attended a few scenes where they had children murdered, And I am not a father. I've never had a kid. But even without being a father, if you walk into a scene and it affects you a lot. And I know that when people are reading a book, you identify a lot. You know, if you read a scene, if you're a father or a mother and you're reading a book and it talks about the murder of a 4-year-old and you have a 4-year-old, you start imagining if it was your kid, and it affects them very badly. So funny enough, with 12 books, I still never written about, because a lot of serial killers do kill kids. They go after children. It's because it's an easy target, it's an easy victim. So until now, I have never used children in any of the books. I mean, on book 7, there is a child in the book, but it doesn't get killed. It doesn't. But there's a child in the book. But so that's the only things until today. I cannot say never, because maybe sometime it'll be good to write about it just so people understand that it happens. Unfortunately, I say to people, we can do whatever we want, but these people exist. Murders exist, pedophiles exist, rapists exist. They are out there. They are in the world. No matter what we do, they are not going to disappear. They exist, right? They are there. They are bad people. There are evil people on the planet. It happens. There's nothing we can do about it. So maybe, but until now, I haven't written anything about kids so far. So that was my never.
Yeah, that's good. So I can fully understand that, because I'm a father. I have 5 kids. So I really appreciate it. It's really good. And I remember part 7, that it was not killed. You're right. So in reality, it's true. And I really appreciate that. So for me, fantastic insights, Chris. So thank you very much. This was a great pleasure to meet you. I'm really looking forward to read the book. I think it comes out 1st of September.
Yes.
So for our readers, it's called Blutige Stufen, Genesis. It was really a pleasure, Chris. And many thanks for your insights. Vielen Dank für die Einsichten in die Welt der Profiler und der Mörder, liebe Zuschauerinnen und Zuschauer. Ich hoffe, Sie fanden es genauso spannend wie ich. Ich freue mich unglaublich auf die nächste Folge von Weltbild liest. Bedanke mich ganz herzlich bei Chris. So really, again, thank you very much. Really a pleasure meeting you. And we'll see us next time. Thank you very much and bye-bye.
So much.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.